7 o'clock. Welcome to ANC3D. We will start our meeting by approving the agenda. So the motion on the floor is to approve the agenda with the following changes. We are going to reorder the official business to do the public space application, Wesley Seminary, 5310 Cathedral, then Sibley Memorial Hospital. Under commission business, we are going to delete Hardy PTO grant, and we are going to add the fourth quarter QFR. Do I have a second? Commissioner Horn seconds the motion. Does anyone have any questions? Hello, Commissioner Simkowitz.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I think just a formality, I think the one item that you're adding to the agenda, you might, that was not announced previously, so maybe you need to explain that. The cathedral, is it cathedral? I'm sorry. In other words, I don't.
5310 Cathedral.
Oh, the 5310 Cathedral. So this will become more apparent when we get to the official actions, but this is an issue we had with the Department of Buildings, and it affects the homeowner, and I believe it's more fair to our future resident if we take this up tonight rather than wait till the next meeting. Thank you. Without any other hands raised, all those in favor of approving the agenda as amended? All right, we're off to the races. Motion passes unanimously. All right, do we have Officer McElwee with us yet? I wasn't sure I saw him.
I think he had a substitute tonight. Is that right?
If he did, I did not get the notice. Is there someone here from MPD?
Commissioner Duncan, I talked to Officer McElwee regarding the pedestrian collision, and he said he was going to be on here tonight.
So
I
you know
talked
what
to him
we're
at
going
10
to
o'clock
do?
this morning or something.
I texted with him early this morning. So we're going to move on, and when he comes, we'll have him come back. All right. So this was a shock to all of us. Our MOCR, the Mayor Office of Community Relations rep that we had for Ward 3, Hope Cousin, is no longer with us. And so we are delighted to have Kendall Gibson and I think Owen Cox. If you could turn on your cameras and unmute, I'm pretty sure.
And as we welcome Kendall and Owen, we should say that to our knowledge, Hope has just taken another job. It's not as though she has ceased to be with us in the most existential way.
So we hope. So I see Kendall.
Hi, I'm here. It won't let me take off the video blocker. It says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. But I'm happy to be an anonymous face for right
Commissioner
now.
Duncan, I had that same problem on my screen as well.
Me too.
Oh, and I see that Tony has arrived as well, Madam Chair.
All right, well, Kendall, we're going to let you go ahead while we look at the security settings. The Zoom updated, so some of this is kind of new for us.
That is totally understandable. But anyways, hi everyone. My name is Kendall Gibson, and I'm the new Ward 3 manager in Mayor Bowser's Office of Community Relations, otherwise known as MOCRs. I'm thrilled to be joining you today to connect with you all. My role in DC government is to connect you with DC agencies and I see start my video. Now you can see me.
All right, hello.
But my role as a MOCR is to connect you with DC agencies and the services that they provide, as well as keep ANCs and residents updated on different developments coming.
Oh, we lost your audio.
I was muted by host. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. And now we
can see you.
We use the MOCRs all the time, so we are very familiar with what your office does.
Yes, so I've already been talking to JP today. Although we just started, we've already been hard at work addressing concerns from neighbors. But if you have any questions or comments that can help maintain or improve your quality of life in Ward 3, I am at your pleasure. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I will drop my contact information in the chat. My work partner, Owen Cox, is not here tonight because he is monitoring 3E this evening. But Owen is a resident of Foxhall, and is a very proud Ward 3 resident. We routinely sweep neighborhoods in Ward 3, so if you see us out and about, we usually wear kind of lime green t-shirts. Please feel free to stop us and say hi. We love meeting residents. But thank you all for your time, and thanks to all the commissioners for your service. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Are you able to tell us if Hope moved on to somewhere else in the DC government?
Yes, bigger and better things, but I'm not able to disclose.
Good for her. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you put your stuff in the chat, we're all probably going to write it down. So thank
Yes.
you.
I will do that right now.
Do you have the same cell phone as Hope?
Yes, I do.
Okay, super. Thank you. All right. I saw that Officer McElwee is here. Thank you. We are going to call on you next. Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioner Duncan. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting us, as always, to your monthly meetings. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Anthony McElwee. I'm your traffic officer, as well as your community connected officer, liaison officer with the 2nd District in PSA 205. I am going to first start off with the PSA 205 monthly crime report. For the last 30 days, we had 18 offenses, 1 robbery, 1 burglary, 2 stolen motor vehicles, 11 theft from autos, and 5 general thefts. I'm going to start off with the robbery, which occurred on October 9th at approximately 11:20 p.m. within the 4,000 block of Massachusetts Avenue. The victim was approached by 3 black males, all described as 20 to 25 years of age. One of the suspects produced a knife and demanded the victim's wallet. The suspect fled the scene. The suspects all fled the scene in a silver sedan with tinted windows. The victim was uninjured, and our 2nd District detectives are investigating this, and it's still an open case. The burglary occurred inside an unoccupied home located within the 4400 block of P Street on October 28th, between the hours of 1:30 and 4:30 p.m. And what we know is an unknown subject entered the home by breaking in through the rear kitchen door and stole some jewelry. We would like to remind everyone to always utilize home alarms and lock all your doors and windows when leaving your home, no matter how short the trip is. Please also report any persons, vehicles that appear out of place to 911 immediately. Theft from autos, we had 11 theft from autos, and I'm just to save time, I'm going to just go over the locations. I'm going to give out the locations, times, and if the vehicles were locked or unlocked. October 26th, during the evening hours on 4900 block of Mass Avenue, the vehicle was locked and the window was smashed out. October 27th, evening hours, 4700 block of Ashby Street, vehicle was left unlocked. October 18th was a daytime theft. 3100 43rd Street. This was the theft of all 4 wheels. They placed the vehicle on kind of like blocks or boxes and removed the 4 wheels. October 16th, evening theft from 4820 Mass Avenue. The window was smashed out. October 15th, an afternoon time theft, 5100 MacArthur Boulevard. The windows were smashed out for that one. October 13th was an afternoon time theft. Window was smashed out. October 11th, evening time theft, 4820 Mass Avenue. We had a few on the 4820 Mass Avenue where the windows were all smashed out. October 10th, 4820 again, Mass Avenue. That was a morning time theft. October 9th, 4000 Mass Avenue. Another window was smashed out. October 9th, a morning time theft. 4100 block of Cathedral Avenue. And October 4th, another morning time theft, again, 4850 Mass Avenue, and the window was smashed out. These thieves are targeting purses, backpacks, wallets, and electronic devices that were all left in plain view. MPD would like to remind everyone to please remove all valuables from inside your vehicles and keep them from plain view, and lock and alarm your vehicles. Again, it's just like the burglary, or when you see suspicious folks in your neighborhood or vehicles, please give 911 a call. A response from MPD, our crime suppression unit, along with your PSA officers, are patrolling and giving special attention, especially to the 4800 block of Mass Avenue, the little strip mall down there where the Starbucks is, right across the street from CVS. So we're getting the officers out of the cars, walking around, because most of those thefts were daytime thefts from autos. Real quick, most of our regular general thefts involved stolen porch packages that were left out by Amazon, FedEx, and UPS delivery folks. We ask everyone here who's attending this meeting to please take advantage of the free Amazon drop-off boxes that are situated directly in front of the 2nd District. You can have your packages delivered to these boxes, which are monitored via video 24/7, and they're right there, right in the front part of the district of the police station. If you can't use the boxes, please try and follow your email and text delivery alerts as soon as possible to remove these packages. Just want to remind everybody, if you go on vacation, I'm gonna put my email address in the chat room. Please email me if you would like us to swing by your house and do a vacation check while you're gone. We'll be happy to do that. And moving into traffic, I don't know if you heard, we had a traffic fatality on Foxhall Road. I'm going to go over, it was investigated by our major crash unit, and I have their statement of what occurred. I'm going to read it as just as they investigated it. On Wednesday, October 30th, 2024, at 1640 hours, the Major Crash Investigation Unit of the Metropolitan Police Department was notified by the Chief Medical Examiner of the vehicle collision that occurred on Thursday. The accident actually occurred on Thursday, October 24th, and it resulted in the death of an 88-year-old female. The preliminary investigation revealed the following. On Thursday, October 24th, 2024, at approximately 0100 hours in the morning, a 2013 Volkswagen GTI was being driven by an 88-year-old female. This vehicle was traveling northbound in the 1800 block of Foxhall Road when the driver of this vehicle, for whatever reason, lost control of the vehicle. The vehicle crossed over the counterflow lanes. There's a median strip out there where it mounted the curb before striking a tree. There were witnesses that stated that they observed, one witness in particular was behind this Volkswagen and saw the vehicle drive in an erratic behavior just prior to the accident. The witnesses stated that the Volkswagen struck the traction island, left side, the curb, and then struck the tree. The witnesses first stated that once the traffic island was struck, the vehicle crossed into the counterflow lanes of traffic and mounted the curb where it struck the tree. So I wanted to put that out. That was a single vehicle accident. With that said, I'm open for questions, concerns, complaints.
Commissioner Nowak?
Hi, Officer McElwee. Thank you as always for being with us. I have a question as it relates to thefts from autos. So you referenced a number of the smash and grabs, and I am wondering the part about not leaving personal property in the car, notwithstanding that is important and critical for all of us. But if our property is secure and not in the car, is it actually better to leave our doors unlocked so that the thieves are not tempted to smash in the window?
Well, we always encourage you to lock your vehicles. I mean, if you want to say, if you're going to leave a package or something of value in the vehicle, And you
Well,
don't,
we're not going to do that, right? Because we've already established we're taking our purses and our briefcases and our packages out so that there's no
the
temptation
vehicle.
for them.
yeah, lock the vehicle. What we're seeing is these suspects or individuals are looking into the vehicle, and if they see something, they're going to break the window to get it. If they don't see anything, they move on to the next vehicle. So
Got it.
please
Okay.
lock your vehicle. But most importantly, I know we all, I'm guilty of it at times. We run in, we run out. Just like the incidents on Mass Avenue, these folks go into the coffee shop for 10, 15 minutes. They come out and they may have left a purse on the front seat of the car. And quickly as that, they break the window and grab it and they run down the street. So just try to take that extra second to hide that or take the item with you or put it in your trunk. Great question, Commissioner. Thank you.
Commissioner Simcox?
Officer McElwee, were you able to obtain any kind of update on the pedestrian collision with the 10-year-old boy on Volta Street? I believe the parents are here and maybe one of the other children's parents.
Yes, I was Commissioner JP, and I did speak with Mr. Martins. I see that he's in there, and I did provide him with a copy of the action report. And if you need anything, I'm not going to go. There was an accident. I can tell you this: there was an accident involving a child that was struck by a vehicle on Volta Place. Second here. On November 2nd, on a Saturday around 1750 hours, and the child was injured. It was investigated by the Metropolitan Police Department, and I have been in contact with Mr. Martins, who is, as I said, present and did receive a copy of the action.
Was there any citation issued to the driver?
There was none, no.
Do you know why that was?
It looked like the child walked out into traffic, into the roadway between a vehicle.
Okay. And this is maybe a question for Commissioner Elkins. I've had numerous requests for speed bumps in Foxhall Village, and every time I've submitted a request for that, it's been denied by DDOT. Can you recommend, as a member of the Transportation Committee, what we should be doing better to get those, Commissioner Elkins?
Well, I don't have the secret answer to that, but I was surprised the other day to hear from DDOT that they had approved speed bumps on University Terrace. The problem that they'd had in that case, and perhaps there's a similar situation there, that they didn't know how to handle the stormwater that might be backed up by a speed bump. They now seem to have overcome this technical problem. I think by the intervention of the director of the department, and they are now installing 3 speed bumps on University Terrace. So this seems, I don't want to make too much of it, but this is somewhat of a breakthrough. And so I think, and this came through, we're told, by a traffic safety input, TSI input on 311. I think, those should be made if you haven't made them already. But they, as you know, most of those requests for TSIs go to other wards as opposed to Ward 3.
Mr. Martins, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank the police for responding very quickly on Saturday in what was a very traumatic and tragic event when my son was hit quite bad. And one thing that is not very clear to me, and I would like to understand a little bit better, is exactly what was the speed of the vehicle when my son was hit. Because something that is not very clear on the report, and the report is public. In the report, it says that the driver said, and he said that to me, and he said it to other witnesses at the moment immediately after the accident, that he was driving at the speed as low as 2 miles per hour. And that is, to me, not believable, given that my son had a head injury in which his skull was exposed. and his legs are all black with large bruises. He was unable to walk. So how can that happen at 2 miles an hour? I don't understand. The other thing is that the driver showed a camera footage or from the dash cam to the officers. And it shows that my son went into the street, as sometimes happens in residential streets. But it doesn't say the speed. So I would like to know what the speed was, because certainly it is not possible, it's not physically not possible that it was 2 miles an hour. The other thing that is also missing in the report, and that's another reason why residential streets possibly need speed bumps, is that when there is a truck, as it was the case on Saturday, that truck parked acts as a visual obstacle, both for the pedestrians and the drivers. So that's exactly what happened, and I have photos of that. There was a big white truck, and my son, given that this was also a Tesla, he had no idea that the car was coming. And the car had the duty to slow down, possibly to 2 miles an hour, which clearly didn't. So none of that is reflected on the report. There were kids around, by the way, on both sides of the street. So that's another reason why a driver should have slowed down. And I think any driver, maybe most of us here on this call, if you are on a residential street like Volta and you see children around and an obstruction, most likely you would stop, because it's very likely a child is coming from behind the truck, right? And so clearly that didn't happen. That's not reflected on the report, unfortunately. I mean, we are very thankful for the police coming and that they were very fast, as well as the ambulance and so on. But there are we don't have an indication of what was the speed, and there is not a description of the fact that there was a visual obstacle. All of that is very important for litigation, because there is an obligation for a responsible driver to slow down if there is an obstacle and if there are children around. That didn't happen. So that being said, I think the presence of speed bumps could have forced this driver to slow down. So we definitely need to get speed bumps. That's true. And I would like to also get a corrected report so we can pursue the adequate legal avenues, because the driver also did not call 911. So my son, 10-year-old son, who could not stand because of pain in his legs, he had to sit at the curb, called 911 from his Apple Watch because he said he was afraid of dying. And while this was happening, it seems that the driver was calling other people. Maybe his lawyer, we don't know who he was calling, but for sure that can be determined from call logs. All of that cannot be done unless we have an accurate report. So I would like to get an accurate report.
Okay, as far as the report, I see that you copied Officer Passmore. He's the officer that investigated your accident, and I believe he's on day off. But I told him about the urgency of your to get you some.
Yeah, we need to know the speed, because if we go to court and there is a statement saying that the driver said he was driving 2 miles an hour, he told me that also. He told other witnesses, and that's clearly false. It's not possible physically. You don't need a PhD from MIT like I have to know that 2 miles an hour would not cause that kind of damage on a child or anybody, right?
Mr. Martins,
Yes.
this is I'm Commissioner Duncan.
Yes.
So
I've worked with you when it was the issue of the school, by the way.
yes,
I have been in this neighborhood. I have been involved in many things. I stay under the radar, but I have been involved in many things, the boundaries for Key School, airport issues. I have been heavily involved.
One of the things I wanted to, two things. One, which doesn't have anything to do with this commission. If he was driving a Tesla, there's a video of him hitting your little boy. because there's cameras all over those cars. So there should be some video evidence that may show that. But in regards to the speed humps, we get frustrated because we ask for bumps all the time, but there is this TSI system and everything is ranked. Sadly, but fortunately, because there was a pedestrian hit at this location, it might put that street up on a different sort of fast track for DDOT to come out and take a look at that. So we can't make any promises because the commission doesn't get to decide these things, but we can make recommendations to DDOT. And we also have a subcommittee of the ANC. It's called the Transportation Committee. We meet once a month, and I would like to add this discussion to the Transportation Committee, and I can send you that information that maybe you can log on, and that would be a great avenue for us to get organized on, asking DDOT for these speed humps. But just to give everybody a sense of reality, these things take a long time. The people on University Terrace have probably waited 10 years for theirs. This is a little bit different. I also see, oh, hi. Do we pronounce your name Hinsal?
Janan Punjab.
Yes, how are you?
Hi. Well, I'm okay. I was there when Mr. Martin's son was hit. He was playing with my son and two other neighborhood boys. And so let me rephrase. I wasn't there when the child was hit. I was there immediately afterwards. So it was somewhere in the 5 p.m. hour. It was plenty sun. The sun had not started to go down. Plenty of visibility in terms of the sun being up. My son ran home. He had the presence of mind to run home, of course, sobbing, saying Rafi's been hit by a car. I dropped everything, ran up the street looking for him. He was sitting on a curb and in shock, clearly in shock. I saw the blood. I saw him sitting there, and then I saw his head, and my son saw his head, and it was really terrifying. His scalp was detached. Okay. It was not something you ever want to see on a child. And again, he was clearly in shock. He had the presence of mind to call 911 himself. My son said that the driver asked one time if he was okay and then proceeded to curse. So anyways, that's neither here nor there, but it's just a recipe for disaster. There are kids all over these streets, 44th P, Volta. We're literally a block over from where that woman was killed. And these kids are on bikes, they're on scooters, they're looking as best they can, but they're kids, right? And these cars are speeding down these streets, our streets, as cut-throughs.
We are hearing you, and we know that this problem exists, and sometimes after a tragedy is when the city can act, and like we are in agreement that this sounds like a dangerous situation there, but we appreciate you all coming.
And I'll just add that the police officer who took the report said to us, you all need to get speed bumps installed. So that's why we're here tonight.
Terrific. And I will be sending you all the
But I would like
information for the Transportation
I
Committee.
would like to add that if you want to use this report as an evidence that we need speed bumps, then the report has to be improved. There are actually mistakes even in the first page. Instead of a pedestrian, it's an animal. So, I mean, we need to have a document that is credible and correct.
I'll have officer, as I said,
I understand. But
He'll
I
call
just
you.
want to emphasize because, I am contacting lawyers. This is a key piece of evidence. And as you know, this was a big drama here. I mean, we are discussing this here in the video, after the meeting is over, everybody's going to go back to their normal lives. Our life has been very difficult since Saturday. I hope you understand. It has been very traumatic for everybody here. My son still cannot go to school. He was having anxiety problems before this. Now the anxiety problems are going to be amplified. This is really a very serious problem we have now. We want support from the community, and we want a correct report to go and talk to the lawyers.
And I'll just add, he's lucky to be alive based on what I,
That's what the pediatrician said. She
Yeah.
said the impact he got to the head is a miracle that he has no visible brain damage. We are not sure he doesn't have a concussion, because he may have a minor concussion that's difficult to detect with imaging. He will have to be followed for maybe for months or years after this. As JP knows, I also talked to JP. So this is not a joke, you know, and this is not a regular report. Is if somebody hits a deer or, you know, we need an accurate report, and we need this to be taken very seriously.
I see, Miss Glomazik. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, no worries. I'm Christine Glomazich, and I live on 44th Street in Foxhall Village. And I'm one of the people who advocated for the speed bumps in whatever ways I can through social media and putting in a traffic safety input in 311. I just wanted to ask, is that the best way to go about this? Like, is that is the 311 system the best avenue to try to advocate for the speed bumps or any of the other traffic calming measures?
Commissioner Elkins, would you like to answer that complicated scenario?
I think we should take a look at how this report is being treated by the mayor's office and by the Department of Transportation. At the time we had the tragic death there at Q Street on Foxhall, the mayor's office and the Department of Transportation did do an investigation and did come up with some solutions with some of our assistants, and that may be appropriate in this case. I think we need to take this up, perhaps as you suggest, at the Transportation Committee, which is on the 19th of this month, and to but maybe before that, maybe I can be in touch with JP about the exact location, et cetera, and maybe we can inquire of the mayor's office and DDOT ahead of that meeting.
So I just want to assure the neighbors that came today, we are hearing you, and it's going to be on the agenda, and we are going to be helping you move forward with this. But it is always great to put in the 311 requests, get the number, and then when we put in the ANC requests, we reference the numbers so that they know how many people, they can see the requests in there. So it's a multi-pronged approach, but definitely the 311 request is a terrific step one.
And I will be attending the Transportation Committee meeting with my neighbors, so they can call me. My number's on the website, and my emails, were there as well. My email is jp.simkowitz@anc.dc.gov if you don't have it, and my phone number is 202-607-5500. Give me a call, Ed, but we will definitely be at the Transportation Committee, which that is how we work internally. Things go to that committee, and then it comes back to us as a full commission.
And Officer McElwee, it would be great if you could get with the officer and say that the family thinks that there's errors that need to be corrected, because I do agree that that will be important to get factually correct.
And the officer's been emailed, and Mr. Martins will hear from.
I have photos. First of all, the Tesla had the mirror broken on the side of the accident. That was not included in the report. I have photos of that. That is an indication of the severity of the impact. I also have photos of the white truck where the accident happened with the ambulance, so that parked right in front where the accident happened, so people know where the visual obstacle was. I have all of that documented. And you have to understand that we want to pursue justice for my son because he was treated like roadkill, essentially. This is what happened. He didn't have to be afraid of dying with his skull exposed and calling out of his Apple Watch. He didn't have to do that. The driver, the 69-year-old driver in his nice jacket, in his nice Tesla, should have worried about this little kid.
I definitely think that you need to share this with the officer when they get in touch with you.
And I talked to the officer at the time. I said, pay attention to the report you will make. And this is recorded because the guy saying he was driving at 2 miles an hour. That is not true. That is not true. That is not possible. And that I am for sure recorded saying this.
Okay, the officer will be in touch with you. And if
Okay.
you're not happy with the officer, then you can reach out to the officer supervisor, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm
Alright.
sure Commissioner Simkowitz will be in touch with you. So this conversation is not over. It's just started here. So we're on this. All right. Thank you all so much for coming. And thank you, Officer McElwee.
Thank you, officer. Thank you very much.
I'm going to put my email again in the chat room for the vacation checks. And again, you'll hear from Officer Passmore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you all. Up next, we have the representative from Councilmember Freeman's office, Hannah Fulati.
Hello, is my sound working all right?
You sound perfect.
Great. Yeah, so I have a few updates, a lot of roundtable updates with the new subcommittee that Councilmember Freeman is chairing now, which I believe Lauren Lipsy updated you all on last meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So we have an upcoming roundtable on athletic field access. It'll be Wednesday, November 13th. And Councilmember Freeman's going to be holding a public roundtable to discuss permitting, access issues, use and capacity of athletic fields owned by the district. There's a various number of topics that people will be speaking to, including how DPR manages these fields, how permits are applied for, and if that needs to be altered in any way, as well as permitting factors into the overall use of inventory of athletic fields in the district. I can send out the link to those who are interested on more information for this, or if anybody's interested in speaking to these issues. We also have an upcoming OST or Universal Out of School Time Amendment that is having a hearing on November 21st at 10:30 a.m. It'll be under the Committee of the Whole, and we'll have general oversight. Which the bill addresses general oversight of out of school time programs that currently exist, as well as where all those programs that he was hoping to fill gaps of where they currently exist would look like. There's also a link I can share with you all on how to register to testify for that. Leaf collection season and DPW contacts leaf collection season has begun, and we have DPW contacts for you all. I have a link for where you can visit to track your leaf collection and when they're doing pickups in different neighborhoods. A reminder, RCS team wanted me to give you all that the Department of Public Works launched their Unified Communication Center, and you can therefore reach out directly to DPW's UCC for customer service needs, which was much needed. I hear based on how it was working before, and it was just a really tedious process to go through. So hopefully that makes things a lot simpler. For the Fly Quiet program, on October 23rd, Councilmember Fruman sent a letter to MWAA, the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, urging them to fully support the Fly Quiet program for DCA. We were able to get Chairman Mendelson to co-sign, as well as Councilmember Vince Gray and Councilmember Trayon White. The Fly Quiet programs have been implemented successfully at several major other airports and were developed through cooperative initiatives between airlines and surrounding communities to reduce the effect of disruptive air noise. Our office has encouraged the MWAA to urge the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, to include a DC representative on the Airplane Noise Advisory Committee. And Councilmember Freeman put out a full letter addressing all of that, which I'm happy to link, as well as it's included on our website. You've all already hit that we are getting a speed hump on University Terrace, which is great news. So I actually think that is all the updates from me.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Sure, some goods.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about the field access subgroup that you're convening?
So we actually have a committee staff member who is running point on field access issues. Joe Dweck. I'm happy to give his email and phone number. If you have a specific question, I might be able to speak to it.
Is this city fields, or is this other fields like schools and universities?
So it's mostly district-owned city fields. I do believe there are some school or some private fields that are also included in this schedule, but it is mostly district-owned fields.
I believe this is for my fellow commissioners. In the past, we have not allowed schools to rent out their fields for kids' soccer usage and other things, other sports that they want to play. I think that's been a problem going forward, and I hope that when any new school wants to come for a campus plan, that we consider requiring them to offer access to school to students and like Stoddard soccer because kids that want to play soccer really have no place to go right now. It's very hard to get field access. So thank you for looking into this, and if I can help the council member in any way on that issue, I'd be happy.
For sure, and I definitely recommend. It sounds like you have worked around this issue a good bit. So I recommend reaching out to Joe. I'll put his email in the chat, and I know that he's really hoping that Ward 3 constituents, ANC commissioners testify and speak to their experiences with the field. So that would be great.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you very much. All right, we are moving on to our higher institutions, and we are going to start with American University. Jason Millison. Is Jason here? Mr. Millison, I see you. Hello.
Hello. Thank you. Yes, I'm Jason Millison, for those of you who don't know, Director of Community Relations at American University. I'll keep it brief. Just wanted to let folks know that this November, I believe it is, Sunday, November 24th, we are going to host our second annual Airly Fall Festival and 5K. Airly Farm is a beautiful compound that we have out in Warrenton, Virginia. American University owns this estate, and it's 300 acres. It's about less than an hour outside of DC, and we are staging a huge fall festival and a 5K run that costs as little as $20 to participate. We're offering transportation out to Warrenton for those who would like to ride with us, or you could bring yourselves. And we basically have a full day plan with hay rides and pumpkin patches and family-friendly activities for all ages. And of course, the 5K, which is the main attraction, which is perfect for all levels of fitness. So it's a timed 5K for those who want to participate, and it's also a fun run. And it's just AU's way of not only providing something for folks to do that are neighbors, to the American University campus, but a cool way to like get out of the city and have some fun and enjoy one of those last, decent weather, we hope, fall days. So that's Sunday, November 24th. I will drop the invite in the chat. And of course, I look forward to following up with you guys on all things AU related. So keep me in your Rolodex, so to speak. And that's my update for American University. So check us out on Sunday, November 24th at the Airly 5K.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next up is GW. I think I saw Mr. Kevin Days.
I am here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. I really have no update. So
Okay.
I'm going to give you back all my time. I'm just going to drop my contact information in the chat and return all of my time to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are skipping Wesley Seminary because they are on the agenda, and we are going to Georgetown. Is Corey Peterson here? Is anyone from Georgetown here? All right, just raise your hand if you are. We have some other institutions. Is someone here from Field School? I thought I saw Miss Rutherford.
Hi, Tricia. I'm here. We don't have an update for tonight. We're just here monitoring the conversation, but.
Excellent.
Okay.
I'll reclaim the time. Appreciate it.
One thing
Okay.
I'd like to ask Ms. Rutherford, how are you doing with the neighbors on the field access, which we just talked about?
Great. No, thank you for asking. That's something that we already provide is, to folks who other, youth sports organizations can contact us directly. But, we did hear from other neighbors, especially when we're proposing to some lights on the field to expand access to make sure that other, again, youth sports organizations and community organizations can get access to that field, and making it very clear how they would contact field to schedule that time. So we heard you loud and clear on that, and we'll be addressing that moving forward.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No worries. Anytime.
We would like to hear a short update from the German embassy, and I think Mr. Spiescher is here. Kai, are you on?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Just so for everyone who's on, the German embassy has a construction project going on. They are redoing their parking field. It's a lot of site work and project, and we would like to hear just a brief update, and then I'm going to open it up to the commissioners to see if they've heard anything from the neighbors. So over to you.
Perfect. Yes, Chairman Duncan, commissioners, thank you very much for having me again. I have actually not much to report other than the works are moving on very smoothly. There are no problems at all. There are no large worker teams on the site. I've actually never counted more than 8 workers at once. So it's going very smoothly, no obstacles, in my opinion, from workers parking in the neighborhood. Also, we have enough parking spaces for the employees, for the members of the embassy. There's no dirt coming out of the working site, so I'm very happy as it's working out right now. I also have not received any complaints from the neighbors, in my opinion, it's working very smoothly right now.
Excellent. Do any of the commissioners have any questions, or if you've heard anything from the neighbors? Okay, great
That's
sign.
great. That's
Thank
great.
you for coming.
Of course, thank you very much for having me.
Okay, thank you very much. If there's anyone here from an institution that I did not get to who's not on the agenda, is Sibley Hospital here? Is Raina here? Okay, I don't see her. Okay, we're good. All right, commissioner updates. I'm gonna go first. Quentin's not or actually let's go in order. 01, Commissioner Elkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have a Transportation Committee meeting on the 19th at 2 p.m. and people are welcome, and the link will be shown on our website prior to that meeting. We're going to be focused in particular, in addition to the accident we talked about earlier tonight, we're going to be focused on where should ANC3D and therefore, of course, the Transportation Committee be focused for the upcoming year, 2025? What should be the priorities? You'll remember that the last 2 years we have set as a commission in January a set of priorities, not just for transportation, that we would work on. And in fact, they've been quite a good guide for us in terms of where we might focus. So we will be asking the Transportation Committee to give us some guidance about where they think the focus should be for 2025.
Excellent. My update is we had elections last night. I am pleased to report that all of the commissioners on our commission are returning, with the exception of Commissioner Davis is retiring from this role, and Mark Blumenthal, who's been a member of the Transportation Committee, ran unopposed, and he will be the new commissioner. And I would also like to say that the WMATA has come out with their revised Better Bus network. And I know it's been posted on Nextdoor, and tomorrow it will be posted on the Palisades listserv with the updates from our neighborhood. But I think that they took our comments, and we didn't get everything we wanted, but we got a lot. They definitely, I think they did a pretty good job. And WMATA said that their board, I believe next week, is going to vote. And if it's approved, WMATA spends about 5 or 6 months running the routes, making sure the roads can fit the buses. And we should have this network running up and in place sometime in May of 2025. Quentin's not here. So Commissioner Horn, do you have any updates? Sorry, Commissioner Davis, sorry.
Just a real quick one. I just want to say to all of you how nice it's been serving with you. I know it's been kind of brief, but I've really enjoyed my time. I've really enjoyed getting to know all of you. I've got a few different reasons why I'm leaving. I don't need to get into them here, but it's nothing personal at all. I really have actually quite enjoyed this, and I think Mark's going to do a great job in my stead. As far as like current update, I mentioned it last month, and I think I want to just reiterate real quick. I feel like sometimes the yard signs are getting a little out of control. Between from Arizona Avenue down to the Maryland border, I counted 40 get out and vote yard signs in our median on public property. I'm all for getting out and vote. I agree with it. I support it, but I thought 40 was a little excessive. I did email DC Board of Elections, just to ask them why they needed that many. Hopefully they'll be gone soon. I've also seen other ones from for-profit companies, painting companies and other things popping up here and there, and not just on MacArthur Boulevard, but also within the neighborhood. And so keep an eye out for them. There's a lot for like stringing Christmas lights and that kind of thing. I just think we should try and be consistent and at least give a nudge to try and prevent people from doing that. I just find them an eyesore. So
someone picked up the vote signs today, I saw.
They were here this evening when I came home at about 5:30 along with.
Oh, they were. Someone was walking, picking them up, so maybe he only got
Okay.
Commissioner Horn. Thank you, Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. I don't have anything special other than what we're going to have on our agenda already.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Nowak.
My update is related to charter schools in the district and school choice more generally. In DC, we are very lucky that our students have not only the pyramid into which their street address allows them to go to school, but school choice around the district via the lottery system, and in some cases through an application process. Since we won't meet in December, I wanted to highlight to everybody that this is the open house season for those schools. So I encourage folks to take a look at the offerings throughout the district and see where there might be a fit for your child. deadlines for applications are February 1st for high schools and March 1st for elementary and middle school. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Simkowitz.
I don't really have an update. I'd like to thank Commissioner Davis for his service. I enjoyed working with you, and we're going to miss you. I hope that you continue to be active in the community. I'd like to congratulate my fellow commissioners on their re-elections, and I look forward to working with them. And to the 5.7% of the people that didn't vote for me, I got 94.3%. I'm sorry. I don't know what I did wrong, but I promise I will try to do better next time.
Nobody gets 100%. Okay, just to give everybody here, we've got two things on the agenda tonight that are going to take a little bit more time. The first one is just a discussion and presentation about the public space part of the apartments that are above Black Coffee. And I'd like to introduce the owner, Rishi Bhatnagar, and if he has anyone from his team here, they're going to give a very short presentation, and we're going to get to ask questions, but they are going before the Public Space Committee, and this is our chance for the ANC to review that because they ask us to comment on that.
Thanks, Trish. I'm going to hand it off to Charles. He's going to be the one to kind of do the presentation.
Great. And if we can let Charles share screen, that would be great. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Charles Warren. I'm principal of Taze Warren Architects. We're the architects of record for this project. Let me see if I can get the screen share going. Everybody see that okay?
Yeah, it might be a delayed a little bit. There it is. Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great. I'm gonna pre-apologize. I'm getting over some congestion here, so
You're fine. You're fine.
Everybody else is fighting the colds, I guess. So just to get everybody reoriented on this project, this is our site plan that is part of our public space submittal. Just to orient everybody, V Street is along the north side here. MacArthur Boulevard is the diagonal street to the south here. This project is 4885 MacArthur Boulevard, and our proposed project is a residential addition over the retail spaces that are there. That is Black Coffee, Cafe Vino, the old Dodge Chrome space. And we had a BZA case for this. You guys saw us quite a bit last year.
Yep.
And then the BZA case was approved back in February, I think was when it was finally approved. And we are working through our permitting process right now. So the building permits and the DDOT public space permits. And that's why we're here with you tonight. So nothing has significantly changed from the BZA application that this commission saw. I have highlighted some of the components of the public space application in the plan. So our public space improvements are the bay projections in the public space. Those are bay windows. Those are the purple boxes that you can see in this plan. We are proposing new bike racks, both along V Street and along MacArthur Boulevard for a total of 8, I think is where we landed.
Can you tell me, I couldn't find the bike racks on here. Where are they?
Sure. Let me see if I can.
Can you annotate?
Yeah, so these are the bike racks. It may be a little bit of a delay, but
Oh, okay, there you go.
okay, so there's
So they'll be out by the curb. Okay. All right,
yep,
great.
Yep. And then
okay, go ahead. I have a bunch of questions.
Sure, no worries. And the area in pink is the reuse of the existing curb cut and the parking deck to the parking deck there, and that gives us access to the existing parking deck, but it's also the parking for the proposed project, and that's what we had in our BZA application. We are proposing some new trees, so there's 3 street trees along B Street. And then there's 3 below that are between the property line and the south of the sidewalk, and then just some various paving and landscape improvements that are part of our DDOT application, our public space application. The big trigger is this reuse of the existing curb cut and the ramp to the parking. Because we are changing use of the building, DDOT is asking us to go to the Public Space Committee for that particular piece. And that's really the big trigger for why we're here tonight. We are scheduled for the Public Space Committee on December 19th. And other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm sure you have a few, but that's kind of where we are.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead. I have my annotation on here, so hopefully you'll be able to see this.
Let me
So the
let me
part,
turn-
do you see this green line I'm making? What is this green right here?
Oh yeah, okay, so that is something that DDOT has asked us to add some landscaped area around the residential entry. So the residential entry on MacArthur Boulevard is like right here. And they had asked us to put some landscaping on either side of that as a buffer from the residential to the commercial. And that was a DDOT comment.
Okay, so this right here, there's probably a little bit of a delay, but the green, that's the Dodge Chrome space right there.
Correct. Yep. So the Dodge Chrome front door is like right there.
Okay, so there's going to be grass
There's
there.
going to be some green space or landscaped area. And that was directly from the OP review at DDOT. They wanted us to do that.
Okay. I'm thinking here right now, we use that space for the farmer's market, but it might be temporary because we're not going to be able to do that when the building is open. Okay. And then it looks like here, near the patio area, it looks like there's more green plantings there.
Yeah, that was again a DDOT comment. They wanted us to have some landscape buffer between the sidewalk and the paved areas.
And then right now the bus stop is up here near the corner, and there's a bench and a hill right here. But you're proposing to put in a new tree here. And then this looks new to me. Is this just sort of so people don't cut across the grass, just to sort of give them a different way to go up that hill rather than coming down to the corner?
Yeah, and it's following grade, so it could be ADA accessible. It has to kind of follow the slope at a pitch that isn't too steep.
Okay,
That's
and
that's why it's kind of bent like that.
And I know that some of what I'm asking here falls on your property and is not public space, but this whole area here with the stairwell, could you describe to me again how the trash works and how that gets picked up? Like, how does that work? How does that come across the public space there? Because the grade change there, you can't tell on the 2D picture, but it's pretty significant.
Yeah, so there's a trash room right here for the commercial space that the doors would come out to the north side, and then it would be wheeled kind of over to B Street. I don't know if that worked.
And that
picked up along B.
Okay, so it gets wheeled out there, comes down, and then they use that to do it. Okay.
Yeah, and then the residential trash is on the parking deck up here underneath the building, and it would be rolled out to V and picked up.
Okay, those are all the questions I have. Do any commissioners or members of the public have any questions?
I have a question about the bike racks. Are those being proposed to be on the public space?
Yes, they are in public space. They're close to the curbs. And they're the standard U-shaped ones that you see around town.
Okay.
It's a DDOT standard.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. This plan has not changed since we saw it. So the commission, we could vote tonight to approve this plan, and then we would send our notice of approval over to the public space. Or it does look like we are going to have one thing that we need to vote on in December. If we think that we need to inform our neighbors with this plan, and we table this and vote on it at the beginning of December, which will be in plenty of time for this to be included, as part of the public space hearing. Do any of the commissioners have any feelings one way or another? No, okay. Thank you very much. I see no one else's hands raised, so thank you for coming and bringing this, but I think we are going to we're going to vote on this in just a few minutes. Is there a way that you could email this drawing?
Sure. Yeah, this is our DDOT. I just marked it up to make it a little easier to read on the presentation, but I can email this to you certainly.
That would be great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. You can
Great.
stop sharing. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
That concludes our discussions for tonight. So we are going to move straight into our official actions. And the first item is this public space application. And the motion on the floor is to approve that drawing that we just saw and went through. Is there a second? Commissioner Simkowitz seconds the motion. Discussion? All those in favor of approving this public space application? And all those opposed? Okay, 1. That passes 5-1 with Commissioner Nowak dissenting. Okay, up next, we are doing Wesley Seminary. And because this is under official actions, I'm going to start this with a motion on the floor. And after it's seconded, there will be time for discussion. And then I'm going to call on the relevant parties and any neighbors who would like to speak. So the motion on the floor is that this commission approve the letter written by ANC3D called Draft 2, written and posted on the website. Do I have a second? Commissioner Nowak seconds the motion. We're now at the discussion part. We have had this project before us for a long, long time now. And the point at which we are at now is that Wesley Seminary is looking to build a building near the property line between their campus and American University, with a building that is going to house students that have American University students and Wesley students in the building. And they are going before the Zoning Commission with a text amendment that is going to allow them, if approved, to build this building. I'm setting it up here, and I'm going to turn it over to David McAllister Wilson, the president of Wesley Seminary. He can say a few words. He's also here with his counsel, Mr. Pat Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and council members who have worked with us on this for, as you say, years. We've appreciated your work and your questions and the way in which you've helped us shape the proposal that's now before you and before the Zoning Commission. Just a brief update about Wesley. We were pleased to host movie night again to the highest crowd ever, a great community experience. The seminary enrollment is up. Our master's student headcount is up 6% this fall. Our Doctor of Ministry program is also up substantially, and our dorm is fully occupied. So we're coming back after COVID and experiencing a lot of real energy on the campus. About a third of our classes are in person now. And then some are totally online or virtual. and some are episodic high flex courses. This year has been a particularly busy one for Wesley because we're in Washington, and because you may have noticed there was some activity last night as the year culminated in the national elections. Wesley has been involved in several significant ways. Some of you may have attended some of the events that we co-sponsored with the National Cathedral in order to facilitate better civil discourse in the public square. We have also brought pastors from around the country in order to do training and better engagement in the public square this year. So it's been today is the kind of the end of a very busy calendar year for us as a seminary in Washington. And we appreciate the draft letter that's before you. And I'll just turn it over to Pat to give you a brief description of where we're at in the process.
And before I share my screen, I want to put this in context. The text amendment, which is currently before the commission, this commission, and going to a hearing November 18th at the Zoning Commission, is really a direct outgrowth of this process that we've been engaged in going back to formally to 2022, but going back as far back as 2019. And the text amendments are really arose out of the discussions and ultimately direction from the Zoning Commission itself to address two specific issues. One, the question of inclusionary zoning on a college or university campus for this project. And second, the location of a dormitory serving two schools on one campus and whether that in fact is a commercial use. And summing up all my, let's see here. Hopefully, can you see that now?
Yeah, can you maybe zoom in a little bit? Do you know how to do that?
Oh, Commissioner Duncan, you're asking a lot from
It's down at the very bottom.
The bottom right.
60%, just hit the plus
Yeah,
sign.
go to the plus sign to the left of the 60%.
There you go.
All right.
Learn something new. Perfect. Okay, that's good.
And here is what was originally filed in the application for a rulemaking text amendment. The first is what we refer to as the exemption from inclusionary zoning specific to Wesley Seminary and this part of their property where the proposed shared dormitory would go, and subject to the subsequent campus plan approval by the Zoning Commission. Down below, the second portion of it was the commercial use, which is just recognizing that, again, specific to this building on this piece of land, would not be subject to the commercial activity restrictions as part of ultimate approval in a campus plan. So the concept for the text amendment is targeted, limited, responding to directions from the Zoning Commission, and not self-executing. The text amendments, if passed, are only the first of a two-stage process that would only be completed through the campus plan process, which is currently pending, but it being held in abeyance. And if I could go to the next page, we've had a lot of discussion and back and forth and suggestions from ANC3E. When we leave here tonight, we're going to their website for their meeting to discuss it. But one of the things that 3E suggested, and we presented to 3E and also 3D and filed with the zoning commission, is an alternative approach to dealing with the inclusionary zoning. And it would basically come not in the earlier section, but here in the offsite compliance provisions for inclusionary zoning, and add, as you can see here, a new subsection 0.10, which would be specific, again, targeted to Wesley and this particular building on this particular piece of the campus, providing housing for Wesley and AU faculty, students, and staff, subject to the campus plan and subject to the specific requirements for inclusionary zoning in the zoning regulations. We've presented that for the zoning commission's consideration, as well as this commission and 3E later tonight. And then the final step here, and this just happened last night and today, further discussions with ANC3E, and they've requested that in the commercial activity provision 101.5 here, that we change the word dormitory to, which is not a defined term, to the terms purpose-built student housing building, which is the nature of what we propose to build. People call it a dormitory, but 3E prefers this language, and we don't disagree. So we've presented that again to the commission itself, to ANC3D and 3E for their consideration. Neither of these changes, whether the addition of 1006.10 or the revised language here, change the substance of what's being requested. Again, it's the first of a two-phase process, and it requires the zoning commission to act favorably on the campus plan, and including, and the IZ exemption is a little bit of a misnomer. Technically, it's the case, but as everyone should be aware, Wesley has agreed to make a contribution for Ward 3 only offsite IZ. That contribution is currently $8 million, which we believe meets or exceeds the cost of more than just the minimum IZ compliance that would be required. So again, you have the text amendment followed by the campus plan, which we view would incorporate the offsite IZ program being offered by Wesley. And I think I'll stop there. And
all right,
questions.
thank you for that. And I would just like to point out to the commissioners here, we are not actually voting on this document here. We are voting on ANC's letter that responds to this application. And we can pull that up if anyone would like to read it again or have questions. And you can probably go ahead and stop sharing. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Do any commissioners have any comments or questions before we open it up to the public? Commissioner Elkins.
There are a couple of things that I would bring to the attention of my fellow commissioners. One is, you may remember that ANC3D obtained the help of legal counsel at the time that Wesley was entertaining the possibility of using a planned unit development. We in ANC3D have not had experience with PUDs, planned unit developments, in the past, and there was a lot of concern on the part of myself and others, I think, but also neighbors about what that might do in terms of having unknown results, 5-10 years down the road, because it's sort of a process that can be opened up again and changes made with only some participation from the neighbors. And I mention this because, to my point of thinking, this text amendment is much more visible, more exact about what it is that Wesley will be doing. It limits the actions to this very specific piece of property within the campus. It has a very specific use. It doesn't hold, in my view, the possibility, a reasonable possibility of any changes down the road. I think this gives more certainty to the neighborhood, and I think that's a good thing. And for that reason, I favor this text amendment approach rather than the PUD approach that was formally proposed. The second thing I would say is I commend our colleagues at ANC3E who have been very active in helping Wesley figure out what the best thing to do is on affordable housing. Before we were looking at Wesley trying to meet the spirit of affordable housing with regard to the students. It wasn't clear how well that was actually going to meet the needs of the city with regard to affordable housing. This, in fact, will encourage affordable housing elsewhere across the city, which we're in great need of in the district. And so I think 3E has really helped bring this solution, a solution to the table, which to me is much more attractive than what was proposed originally. So it's just to say that I think this proposal, together with what ANC3E has worked on affordable housing, really does make this a more attractive proposal than we've had before, and for that reason deserves our considerable attention, and I believe also approval. Thank you.
I'm going to open this up to comments from the public. I know that Commissioner Elkins and I have had some direct conversations with some people who are on here, but if anyone wants to make some of their comments made public on the record to other commissioners, raise your hand. We're probably have, you can probably just unmute if you'd like to say something. Okay,
I would encourage neighbors to speak up at this point. I mean, I think
Mr. Clarkson?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. William Clarkson from the Spring Valley Neighborhood Association. Our organization, I'm a resident of Spring Valley, live about 4 blocks away from University Avenue and the Wesley campus. I think they've been a great neighbor. Our organization has been was a party to the zoning commission case or cases. I forgot how many of them there were. So in support of the proposal, we want Wesley to thrive in place. We think Wesley, the other stakeholders, particularly both ANCs, have really gone above and beyond to try to understand neighbors' concerns and address these issues in good faith. And I just want to thank the ANC, the commissioners themselves for their engagement and for this letter. I think it's a great letter, very thorough as usual, and it really touches on, in particular, the substantive concerns, the few that have been raised by individual neighbors. And on that note, I know some of the members of the Neighbors for a Livable Community, the handful of neighbors that have been adamantly opposed to this project from the beginning, as parties in the zoning cases, and have already filed filings in with respect to this text amendment. I'd just like to understand from them, in a public forum for our ANC commissioners and fellow neighbors, what are the substantive objectionable impacts that they have to this project? Not talking about the legal precedent, the statutory issues, that we've seen the filings. I want to know what are the substantive objectionable impacts that these individual neighbors or group NLC have with the project? Is it too big? If so, what do they mean by that? Are they concerned with students or residents of the building utilizing public sidewalks? Is that a concern? If so, I think it'd be very helpful to understand that. And for neighbors, again, this is why we have these meetings. It's a public forum for neighbors to have a robust back and forth, good faith debate about serious issues that affect our community with our elected representatives. So it's great that they're listening on the call, but on the Zoom, but I'd love to hear from them, not about the text amendment, not about the legal precedent, but about what are the objectionable impacts to the neighborhood that this project will bring. Thanks.
We are gonna, anyone who wants to speak is gonna be allowed to speak, and I'm gonna call you on next, Commissioner Simkowitz, but I am going to assume that your questions are rhetorical because
No, they're legitimate questions. I'd love to hear them.
Perhaps, but they're rhetorical and people can choose to respond to them or not. You know, Commissioner Simkowitz, you're up.
I have a question. Is this a dormitory? Is this an apartment?
So well, actually, I'm assuming this is a technical term, so perhaps Mr. Brown can answer, but I mean, I have my thoughts that it houses people, so I'm considering it residential because people live there.
Well, it's residential, but it's residential built and designed and located for the express purpose of housing students.
But isn't that the same as along Route 1 in College Park? There are buildings there that are privately owned that rent to University of Maryland students, and they're not dormitories. You guys keep using this term dormitory, and I think that's an incorrect usage of the term.
I thought that Mr. Brown said earlier that they've stopped using the term dormitory specifically for that reason.
Yeah, we've, after working with 3E, we've changed the word dormitory to purpose-built student housing, which is what they're building in College Park and around college campuses all over. It's the quite frankly, it's the 21st century version of a dormitory.
But I disagree with that. I mean, Georgetown's building a new dorm, and they have people. They're the landlord. It's not, you know, a corporation. It's the university. And that, you know, when I went to Georgetown, I paid my tuition, room and board not to a private entity. I paid the tuition, room and board to Georgetown. I have a problem with giving this project, this private owner, exemptions from inclusionary zoning and parking and all the other things that we would require them to follow if they were a private entity building a building on MacArthur Boulevard or Mass Ave or wherever. I mean, this is no different, you know, than somebody else building a building on Mass Ave and saying, you know, approve it or not. I mean, I just have a problem with this.
Well, I disagree, but I'm not so sure. And the ownership and operation of the building, from a land use perspective, which is the world we have to live in right now, is irrelevant. It's what is the use of the building, and it's not an apartment building that you see on Mass Avenue, the Berkshire, the Avalon, or any of the others. It's built for specifically for the purpose of housing students, and not members of the general public.
Well, what happens when
this building will be restricted exclusively to students.
Okay, so what happens if a student drops out halfway through the year, but they still want to live there? What does the landlord do to get the student out?
Well, one, the student's eligibility to live in the building is based on their being enrolled and continue to be enrolled.
But the lease is with the building owner and not the school.
if a student is no longer eligible to live there for whatever reason, they'll be asked to voluntarily leave, and if not, then the property owner manager would have to pursue the legal avenues to evict them.
Correct, which is different than if they lived in a dorm on the AU campus. I think that there's no landlord-tenant law that would allow them to stay there. I think the university could say, hey, you got to go, and they'd have to go. I might be wrong on that, but I think I'm probably right on that issue. And that's a technical issue, but again, I don't think this is, it's been given to us as a purpose-built student housing or whatever funny term you use, but it's, you're calling it a dorm up until now, and I don't think we should give you the approval to build this building without following all the other rules. We're giving you an exemption, and I just don't think that's appropriate.
So I would like to make my comments, and then I am going to call on you, Mr. Carter. So my vote for this letter to approve this, it is obvious that this text amendment is a carve out for Wesley. But in my view, Wesley has been a terrific neighbor and an institution that not only provides just a beautiful piece of green space there off of Massachusetts Avenue near Spring Valley, but they also have graduates that go on to serve churches in the city. And we have been told that Wesley is pursuing this path because the long-term viability of their institution needs some additional source of income. And this is the idea that they have. And it is my feeling that I believe them when they say that if they don't come up with, if they don't get approval on this, then they are going to have to leave and sell the property. So I hear your concerns, and I have, in my mind, weighed the specific concerns that you lay out here versus Wesley leaving. And I have come out on the side that the overall benefit to the community is to have Wesley stay. And since I believe them that if they can't do this, that they will have to go, that's where my vote comes on the side of I'd like to approve this letter. Mr. Carter, would you like to make some public comments?
I
think you're still muted. Oh, wait. No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
You're good. Okay. Yeah, I want to pose to Commissioner Simkowitz that, and probably challenge Pat in that, let's be clear, it's a student apartment building where individual students will enter into leases with a commercial operator. So it is indeed more than, a university dorm. I mean, and Wesley has enjoyed the protection of a campus plan and lack of real estate taxes, which is great, but now they're going into a commercial operation. They're leasing land for a commercial operation. In other words, they're becoming a landlord. Campus plan, and what I'm going to do is I'll direct Bill to go back because my objections are based on encroachment of the underlying zoning for the campus plan. And we're just concerned that it doesn't apply to the zoning rules. Now, carve out text amendments are bad policy. If things have truly changed in the dynamics of university housing and how the university should approach this, the zoning commission should really open it up and look at all the rules, and they haven't. And so what you're doing is you're carving out saying Wesley is special. It's more special than Howard, more special than GW, more special. It should be given special consideration. Yeah, it's just bad zoning policy. And the rules are set up to protect the underlying zoning in this area. It's zoned RA1 or RA1, and it's right next to single dwelling. And to me, there's encroachment. So, Bill, if you want to go back, you should look at, the testimony and the campus plan and the PUD cases to understand the objections. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that, and I hope that brings. Now, look, I want to be clear. I love Wesley. I love Wesley being there. I really do. We have supported the institution. I'm partial to seminaries. I really am. I just think that from a zoning standpoint, this is a real issue, and it outweighs the points that Commissioner Duncan has listed. I know we're going to disagree, and I'm just giving you where my point of view.
Blaine, thank you. I'm sorry. I just wanted to thank Blaine for clarifying that. And I really appreciate you saying that publicly at our monthly ANC meeting with our commissioners present and other neighbors and you made clear that NLC now doesn't believe that the proposed building itself has any objectionable impacts in terms of size, students walking through the neighborhood, and so forth, concerns that were raised earlier, that this is solely about just the zoning policy and the regulatory precedent this carve out would create. So I appreciate you confirming and answering my question.
Don't put words in my mouth, please.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm just repeating.
Personally, I have an issue with density, and this building would never be allowed to be built other than the campus plan. And Wesley does not have a need for this size building. They're putting up this size building and density to lease to AU students and are in effect taking AU students and revenue away from AU. So, I just really want to be clear that the underlying zoning rules are actually there to protect this. And I know Commissioner Amura at the Zoning Commission goes, the zoning rules aren't perfect, but the campus plan rules really were crafted very deliberately to protect against this. I bought in a neighborhood for single dwelling housing, and I'm concerned about encroachment commercially or size or density. Now, that's me personally. So I do have an objection to the density to the building because Wesley doesn't have a need for it. Okay? Wesley doesn't have a need for it. Wesley has maybe 20% need, and 80% is probably going to go to AU. And that is, they're becoming an innkeeper. Under land, it's been protected under the campus plan and zoning rules up until now.
I would also like to add to this little discussion there, since Mr. Carter brought up American University. American University up until now has not wanted to comment on this, but they have changed their mind, and they will be making a comment on this to the Zoning Commission. And I'm assuming that they have announced themselves as a party. If there's someone here from AU who would like to confirm that, that would be great. Commissioner Nowak, did you want to ask or say something?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Mr. Carter, about the idea of encroachment and density and the changing nature of the neighborhood if this building were built. When I think about this, I think about the actions of this ANC it's probably 20 years ago now, when the parcel of land across from the German embassy at Foxhole and Reservoir was all green space. And at that time, the ANC chose not to allow a mayor's mansion to be built on that land because the ANC members at that time thought that it would be disruptive to the community. Fast forward a few years, and what we have there is Phillips Park, which has, I believe, hundreds of homes. I don't know the exact number, but a very tight lots and lots of homes. I love Phillips Park. They're great neighbors. I'm not complaining about that development as such, but I call it to mind to say to people that we look sometimes to block the known, because we think that it is worse than the alternative that might come later. And I caution the idea that if Wesley is allowed to go under for lack of this building and revenue stream, that you may not some years from now like what happens when another party buys that land, because I think we can all say with some level of confidence that it will not stay the same as it is today, the bucolic campus that is Wesley, and the alternative may not be as appealing. For the nature of, to the comment about Wesley doesn't need this building, Wesley may not need the building to house the bodies of their students, but I think that they have been very clear that they very much need this building as a source of revenue. So while they may not need it for housing, that does not mean they don't need it to survive as an entity. I'll stop there.
Mr. Carter, go ahead.
Yeah, Wesley has testified, itself that it will survive regardless. It may have to move. And one of the things, while everybody's here, that, should be pointed out, I did a survey of 4 seminaries that I'm familiar with: General Theological, Union Theological, both in New York, maybe New York City, Virginia Theological Seminary, which is right across the river on Quaker Lane, and Wesley. General Theological had to close their doors 2 years ago. And they made an affiliation, an alliance with Virginia Theological, which is one of the few seminaries operating positively, so that their graduates or their candidates could finish, and to reduce redundancy in administration. In the meantime, General Theological Seminary was able to lease their entire campus to another educational institution, Vanderbilt, that wanted a footprint in New York City. They wanted a physical presence. So, Wesley hasn't really provided any alternatives to us, okay, other than saying this is what we need. Wesley hasn't provided any financial information to support their assertions, which I find a little troubling. There's been a lack of transparency. Now, generally, it's none of my business, okay? It should be none of our business, other than the fact that they're under a campus plan. And that allows us to ask the kind of questions. So, if you think that it's okay that they become an innkeeper to survive, I don't know what to say to you. But the campus plan rules are set up such. So I'm saying there are alternatives. You're giving a potential risk of the unknown. I hear it. I mean, property could be sold. Maybe we don't like what gets developed. I'm willing to take that risk if the zoning commission really feels some merit, they should really open up their entire policy to all universities in DC. If the paradigm has really changed for student housing, which it seems to have been, or seems to be, then that's something that it shouldn't be a carve-out. It shouldn't be a carve-out to Wesley. Zoning rules are there for everyone. They're for the public benefit.
Do any commissioners have any questions on this? I will say this about the carve out, because I look at this and it clearly is a carve out for Wesley. They named the block, the census block number for this project. But in the last hearing we had with the zoning commission, maybe it was Miller, someone said the zoning commission has done this before for GW, and that they have a building on their campus plan that they lease out to as an office building. And they specifically said to the zoning, we're doing this to raise money for our university. And the zoning commission has allowed them to do that. So I hear what you're saying, Mr. Carter, but I'm still leaning on the side of this should be okay. Commissioner Elkins?
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. I really appreciate Mr. Carter laying out the arguments here, because I think they're very important ones. They're ones that this commission should consider. I happen to disagree with them, but that doesn't mean they're not legitimate and shouldn't be brought forth. And I appreciate his doing this. I'd like to try to reply to some of them. And if he'd like to then reply to me, if the chair would allow, that would be fine. I think this is the kind of dialogue we ought to be having at an ANC meeting. Mr. Carter indicates, and others, I don't mean to push it just on Blaine, but anyway, the argument is that the zoning regulations are there and this is spot zoning, and it really sets a bad precedent and it shouldn't be allowed. Zoning, in my view, spot zoning is normally something one does not approve of. I agree with that. I think zoning regulations are there to protect, in particular, neighbors of the property for which the regulations are being applied. And so that brings me back to the question that I think that this ANC is particularly well positioned and required, actually, in my view, to address, and that is, okay, if an exception is going to be made to the zoning regulations, what is the damage to the neighbors? Because that is something that we in particular, I think, need to be particularly concerned about. And I think we have been addressing that over the last many years. One of the issues is density. Is this bringing more density to the neighborhood? And the answer is yes. The question is this density negative? If you look at Wesley campus as compared, for instance, to every other campus in our area, and in particular American University, I mean, there is so much green space there at Wesley. I mean, most people will not be able to see this building very much. Yes, it is a large building, but the density is being added to a campus which has tremendous amount of green space, which we are blessed with. And so I'm having a really hard time getting really upset about the density of this building. And so I'm really having a hard time equally in understanding why an exception to the zoning commission is detrimental to this neighborhood. And the letter addresses that in various ways. I won't go into that detail, but I'm prepared to answer any questions that people want to address that. Secondly, one of the arguments was that this is disadvantageous to American University, that's taking income away from American University. I think that is an assumption which I don't think we have the facts to verify. American University has 5,000 students, including grad students, whom it cannot, at the present time, accommodate on their campus. 5,000. And so they have, in their campus plan, they have proposed to build 500 spaces for 500 more students. And I hope they do build them, because there are too many students living in the neighborhood. So they build why do we think that they're not going to build those 500? That's what they've offered to do, and they will make some money off those 500. They have not offered to add another 500, which is what this dormitory would cover. So I don't really see whether this is taking money away from American University that they would like to have. it's been stated that maybe we should take the risk of what will happen if the property is sold. Well, I mean, that's a personal judgment about are you willing to take the risk or not? But I think Commissioner Nowak has really laid out a great example of where taking that risk can have consequences. And if I bring up another one, which is in this letter, the risk we took with regard to the Safeway. And I'm sorry, the Fitzgerald people, I'm sure, are really nice people, but quite frankly, I don't like their building. It is huge. To me, it doesn't fit in the Palisades, but they had a right to build it. And I will support them in that regard. But I'm sorry that we didn't go with Safeway building apartments above their Safeway. I think we would all been a lot happier. Now, of course, it's easy looking back and saying, well, you know, okay, but I think Commissioner Nowak has made the point, be careful when you're taking this risk, because you know what you can see now, but you can't see what the future is. The other argument, and I'm going to finish with this, is shouldn't the zoning commission just open up the whole zoning regulation and provide this to everybody, all the campuses? Well, I really do think, in fairness, that this is really a different situation. These two campuses used to be one campus. They are joined at the hip. As far as the neighborhood is concerned, it is one big piece of property. We are affected by the students from both universities. Yes, with regard to the campus plan, they are institutionally different, but from a land use, neighborhood impact point of view, they are joined at the hip. This dormitory is not very far out. I have not measured, but it's within throwing distance of other dormitories. And as we say in the letter, it's quite likely, we haven't measured this either, but that students living in the Wesley purpose-built student housing will be able to get to class faster than some of the AU students could by living in their dorms. This is, to my view, a unique situation, and that is exactly what spot zoning is designed to do. And doing this as a rule for every university in the city makes no sense to me at all. And I really like the fact that this text amendment is very specifically limited to this piece of property so that the zoning commission can have a very clear view what consequences it is approving, and it's not some big PUD or something, which we don't know what's going to happen 15 years from now. So I really like this. And I think on the basis of not having Wesley leave, and because we don't see an adverse impact on the neighborhood from having these additional students there, they're going to be on public sidewalks. That really, those arguments, to my mind, outweigh the arguments we've heard tonight, although I think the arguments we've heard tonight are valid concerns and should be considered by the commission and by the zoning commission. And you notice our letter says that we think the zoning commission should take these other arguments into account. So thank you for a long speech, but many of us have spent many, many hours on this and have thought very hard about where to come out on this difficult issue.
Thank you, Commissioner Elkins. Mr. Carter, I am going to give you the last word, and then I'm getting some requests to call the question, but go ahead.
Okay, well, and look, I appreciate you giving me the last word. And I'll be quick. Chuck, I mean, Catholic University and Trinity College are right next to each other in Northeast. So this isn't all that unique, okay? There are other campuses in DC. Look, AU has already been given approval for a 500-bed dorm. Now, you really need to look at this. I think the commission needs to look at this as there are now more than 1,000 beds on the table because Wesley wants a 659-bed unit and the AU's got a 500-bed unit. So now we're putting 1,000 beds in the area near Wesley AU, near University Avenue, and you're changing the nature of Wesley's campus, which is a graduate campus and very serene, and you're mainly putting undergraduates in there. You're putting 500 some undergraduates. And if you don't, I don't see how you don't agree with them taking income from AU. You know, I think AU's got more than 500 beds coming up for a campus plan. So, you know, these are AU students that would be leasing from AU when they build their dormitory. And you can do the math. It's 500 beds, an average price of, I don't know what. You know, AU advertises somewhere between 4,000 and 7,000 a semester for a dorm bed. Run the math. That's that's gross income that is not going to AU. It's going to be going to Wesley. So thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for your time.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have anything? I'm going to call the question otherwise. All right. Motion on the floor is to approve sending the letter titled Draft 2 to the Zoning Commission on this Wesley matter. All those in favor? All those opposed? Let the record show the vote is 5-1 with Commissioner Simkowitz dissenting. Thank you everyone for showing up. Can someone remind me when the zoning hearing is?
It's November 18th at 4 p.m.
Okay, and that's a Monday or Tuesday?
It's a Monday.
Okay.
And as always, it's a virtual hearing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to 5310 Cathedral Avenue. This was a last minute ad, and I'm just going to go ahead and call the question, and then we'll have a discussion. Motion on the floor is to approve sending a letter to the BZA on 5310 Cathedral Avenue to approve their variance for the side setbacks. Do I have a second? Commissioner Horn seconds the motion. I'm going to give everyone a little background here. Everyone knows that Commissioner Horn and I have been hounding the zoning administrator's office on the idea of new construction versus an addition. And we've been going back and forth on their interpretation of the ZA rule, ZA10, it's called. So we have been told that you need to preserve 40% of the walls of your building. And I'm walking down Cathedral Avenue and I see what looks to be new construction. And there's a new house there, and some of the wall is preserved around the side. It's a very, very tight lot. There was a small house there before, but the original walls weren't preserved enough. So I called it into the Department of Buildings. There was a stop work order. The owner of the building, who's here tonight, I'm going to give him a chance to speak if needed. He was out of the country, but we spoke with the Department of Buildings, and they told us that they agreed with us that this did not meet even their weird interpretation of ZA10, but that someone at the Department of Buildings had given the owner guidance to do this. And they were obviously feeling sheepish and badly about it. The one thing that this owner has done, so Catherine, can we pull up the letter and pull up the site plan so people know what we're approving? This house is, if you know where Claudio's table is and the Stone Masons building is right behind it, then there's an alley. And if we could go to the second page, okay, right here, you will see in the middle where the number 41 is, the big square box is the original house. And then the lines coming out the front and the back are the additions. So the side setback on the southwest side of the alley, one is 6 feet and one is 5 feet. It's in the letter. They're both about 6 feet, and a side setback needs to be 8 feet. But one of the things the owner did not do here is that his additions in the front and the back actually have an 8-foot setback. And he's got plenty of room in the rear, and his front setback seems to be totally conforming. The weird thing about this lot, or I guess the advantageous thing, is one, the smaller of the two setbacks is along the alley. So there's no neighbor there, and there's no residential neighbor across the alley. It's a commercial building. And then on the other side is another non-conforming lot. And I've been told that that neighbor has no problem with this because the non-conformity was not extended. So I wanted to go ahead and send this letter to the owner so he can include this letter with his BZA application, because then he doesn't have to wait 6 months for a hearing. He would be able to go on the consent calendar possibly in December or January. Are there any questions?
Commissioner Duncan, so I just want to make sure that I understand the situation. The renovation versus new build is not at issue here. It is the non-conforming measurement, and the owner is building to the same specs of the current non-conforming footprint. Is that correct?
So he did keep a small portion of the existing foundation, but he added some brick, but it wasn't enough of the original house. So if you tear down too much of your house,
yeah,
the idea is you can't have the non-conforming things unless you go for a variance. And he obviously doesn't want to tear down the home, and he is asking us to agree with this variance. Commissioner Elkins.
Madam Chairman, I'm in favor of our approving this because I think this neighbor is essentially an innocent victim of poor work by the Department of Buildings. And I mention this because I know you are aware of this, but maybe my fellow commissioners are not, and it may blow up at some point, and I want to make sure that no one is blindsided. I am working with a number of neighbors across the city who have been damaged to the hundreds of thousands of dollars by builders who cheat on the on the building code regulations. And the problem is we've not had a sheriff in town who basically, in the form of DCRA or now Department of Buildings, who essentially prevents this from happening. And I'm up to 50 pages on the document that we're getting ready to sit down with the director of DOB and his top staff to talk about what they're going to do about fixing this problem. I am really very upset in these other cases, and this is another case where DOB is not doing what they were supposed to do to protect the rest of us from unsafe and inappropriate building. But in this case, it seems to me that this neighbor is not a party to that, while other builders have been across the city, and I'm eager to have the department run these people out of town if they can't abide by the rules. But in this case, I would be in favor of this. But if you hear an explosion and people are out after Chuck, you know that I am on my high horse about we need a new sheriff in town, and we have a new department and a new director, and either he's going to get on his horse or some of us are going to be, we are going to be talking to the council about this in detail, including 50 pages that I've written so far, and it keeps getting bigger. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, just a question. Do we know who at DOB made the mistake and approved this, or is that beyond our purview? Or
So when we were in the Zoom with them, she offered up very quickly. She says, I actually haven't talked to the person, who did that. So she was sort of making it clear that she wasn't going to tell us who it was,
Okay.
but it was pretty clear that she knew who it was.
And then also this rule that I'm sorry, forgive me, the Z10 rule or something you were talking about, that correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not codified in writing, right? That's just kind of like an understanding or something. Because didn't we try and find that? And there's no actual like hard code about it.
Yes, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Horn because we had a meeting about ZA10 with them. They were asking for so Commissioner Horn, why don't you go ahead and ZA10 us?
Thank you. Well, ZA10 is a zoning administrator's written ruling about what constitutes an addition compared to what they say is a zoning raise. And we had a long conversation with the zoning administrator about this and had sent her a rather long series of comments and suggestions. And I think she's going to improve this rule. But in this particular case, they clearly violate ZA10, but it was the Department of Buildings that told them to do it this way. They got ZA10 wrong. And that's one of our reasons why we think that ZA10 needs to be rewritten, because even the regulators don't understand how it is implemented. And, I think that Tricia and I maybe know more about ZA10 than most of the zoning inspectors who are supposed to be enforcing.
Wouldn't be
So
surprised.
at any rate, the reason why I'm fine with this letter and letting them go ahead is that it wasn't their fault. It was truly the Department of Buildings' fault, and it's not really negatively impacting anybody.
Well, the only thing is, if people are curious, you can still go to Google Maps and you can plug in the address and see the existing house that they're replacing. And this one is probably about 2 to 3 times the size of it. Even with the same footprint, it's significantly taller, just a much, much bigger, and really kind of changes the landscape of that block. And I'm just wondering if that doesn't fall within the purview. It still, of course, it was approved by DOB and even if it's clearly not an addition. So in other words, I know a lot of people like to stretch the definition of addition in order to do what they want, but this is much, much bigger than any type of addition I've ever seen.
But I think Commissioner Davis, even if the rules were followed and the homeowner needed to abide by the correct setback, that would not impact the height to which they're allowed to build. So they could.
Are there no restrictions on height in this situation?
It's probably maxed out on the height. You can build a really tall house in this neighborhood.
Okay. It's really difficult to kind of like justify the new home as an addition. I mean, I understand we're getting into the details of definitions and that kind of thing and what that works, but it's hardly an addition.
Commissioner Elkins?
I've heard a number of our meetings. I've heard concerns from commissioners and from neighbors about the fact that large buildings are being built where small buildings were earlier in the neighborhood. And I just wanted to bring to your attention that Wesley Heights tackled this issue back in the late 1990s and essentially got the zoning commission to approve a change in the zoning regulations applied to Wesley Heights. And it may be that other neighborhoods would like to pursue something like this as well. I'm not sure how feasible it is politically, but basically in your neighborhoods, you can build a house to fill up 40% of the lot. And I'm not sure what the restrictions are about the space within the house. In Wesley Heights, you can only build on 30% of the lot, and there is a restriction about how many square feet there can be in the house based on the size of the lot. So I think that it's not that we don't have large houses in Wesley Heights, but if you drive through our neighborhood, you'll see that they are more proportional, shall we say, to the lot size than they are in the Palisades and other parts of our ANC3D. And I think what has been said tonight, that these houses are legal, assuming they are abiding by the 40%, et cetera, they are legal. That doesn't mean they are desirable. And it may well be that a change in the zoning regulation like Wesley Heights got isn't appropriate if you think that these houses are too big, which I think they are too big. I agree with you.
Everybody's familiar with the Chris Wolf homes we have in 3D04. Might ring a bell on that.
Yeah, I guess I'm a huge believer in property rights, and the zoning, the R1B zoning is 40% of your lot. I think it's 40 feet high, 25-yard rear setback, and the houses that were originally built here just didn't cover that much of the lot. But the zoning's been there since well, at least 2016. I don't know what it changed, but Wesley Heights and some areas around Chain Bridge have a zoning overlay, so they have an extra layer of rules on there that we do not have generally in Palisades. Does anyone have any questions for the owner, or would you like to hear 30 seconds from him? All right, it's getting late. I think I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of approving this letter, say aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. Thank you all for once again doing one of those zoning things. There'll be another one coming up because we have another one on MacArthur Boulevard. Thank you, Kevin, for coming, and you'll get an email from us tomorrow. Okay, Sibley Hospital. Is there anyone here from Sibley Hospital? I'm going to make a motion to table the Sibley Memorial Hospital Behavioral Health Emergency Department ED thing until December, and if they can wait till January, doing it in January. We just got a letter and posted it today, and I just don't think that's enough time for us to consider. And also Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt was called away on an emergency, so he's not here. Motion to table Sibley Hospital item. Do I have a second? Commissioner Simkowitz seconds the motion. All those in favor of tabling Sibley? Aye. All right, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, the settlement agreement for the Fitzgerald liquor license. Before I make a motion, I would like to say that every liquor license that we do in ANC3D, we have an unwritten policy that we do a settlement agreement. We don't want to give anyone special treatment by not doing a settlement agreement, but we must agree that the Fitzgerald is only serving the people that are in their building because it's a retirement thing. It's not like we're approving for a bar or a restaurant where there's a lot of coming and going. So our boilerplate settlement agreement, we sent it over to the Fitzgerald, and Mr. Mixon is here. Wait, are you with the Fitzgerald? Yes?
Yes, Cameron Mixon, counsel for the applicant.
Oh, and there's Mr. Wesley too, Alfonso. Yes. So we have not had a ton of time to consider this settlement agreement, but it is very, very basic. It's our boilerplate that we have made to fit the Fitzgerald here. So my question to my commissioners is, do we want to quickly go through the 10 items that are on here and approve it tonight? Or do we want to go over it tonight, ask the Fitzgerald some questions, and then we'll have to vote on it in December?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Just for clarity, I know there's different policies between each different commission. Is 3D's policy that an agreement can only be approved and executed at the general body meeting and not in the interim month when it's been finalized between the negotiating members.
So we have to, we like to do all of our business during our monthly meetings because it's easier for the commissioners. We are allowed to call a special meeting, but I'm not sure that this would fall under special enough. Do you know when you have your ABCA hearing?
The protest petition deadline, I believe, is still approaching in the next week. So the roll call will probably be 2 to 3 weeks out from that.
Okay, so Commissioner Horn?
I think that we should hear a presentation about what they're doing because I'd really like to hear it.
Okay.
And then, you know, if it's what I think it is, then I think that we'll have no real problem approving this.
I agree with that as well.
Thank you. Okay, I love consensus. Okay, let's over to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So
I
will share
want
my-
to say, if I may, Alfonso, just as a preliminary matter. Alfonso Wesley is with the Fitzgerald. I am their ABC licensed counsel, Cameron Mixon with the Veritas law firm. I wanted to say that I thought the smoothest way to proceed through the ANC's review would have been if the board had granted what we had initially applied for, which was a multi-purpose license, which is to say this is a special kind of facility kind of outside of the traditional boundaries of the ABC license establishment. The board requested, as they do with all times that someone seeks a multi-purpose license, they requested a fact finding. We attended the fact finding, explained the concept that this is a senior living community. The intention of the ABC license is to serve beverages to the members of this living community predominantly. And the board's decision is that it didn't fall under the kind of definitional examples of the multi-purpose license, and so that they recommended that a tavern license be sought. And I just thought that, you know, for the purpose of creating peace of mind for the community and most accurate.
Oh, we lost you, Cameron. Mr. Mixon.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and share my screen.
Great. Thank you, Alfonso.
And we will start the presentation. So bear with me so that I can share appropriately. Can you see my screen?
Perfect.
We can, but I'm
see my
seeing a lot
presentation?
of, there you go, into presentation mode. Perfect.
Apologies.
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead, Alfonso. My point was I just wanted to say that I think that this would be a lot simpler if we had fallen into the license class for which we had applied, and there would be less confusion because the tavern license honestly doesn't seem very explanatory of what the concept is that Alfonso will explain. But this is more living community residential than it is a tavern by the traditional definition.
Great.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cameron. And I want to thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate you and the fellow commissioners on this call. And thank you for having us join today's meeting. I will try to be brief because several of you have gone through me presenting this in our PCA town halls, as well as a lot of you have been to our events and to our Discovery Center. So what you're looking at here is a rendering of our arrival courtyard, which is off of 48th Place. If you can see my mouse, maybe you can't. The main entrance is to the right, and then there's a secondary entrance to the left where the white Tesla is coming out of. So just a brief, quick understanding of who we are. Our parent company, we are actually Kisco Senior Living, but we typically name our communities after something unique about our communities. So whether it's the community that we're in or the architectural design, and of course we are 1920 inspired, pay homage to F. Scott, who was a great novelist. So we are the Fitzgerald. So as I go through our floor plates a bit, you'll see a lot of our venues pay homage to F. Scott, as well as a lot of some DC landmarks. But Kisco, we've been around for 30 years. Started off in Carlsbad. We're a privately held organization, not publicly traded. So it's not as if we have to go, you know, before Wall Street and answer to these big folks who want to see a return. We truly do serve the members who live in our communities and their families, and of course the greater community, which is of course Ward 3. We do have 25 communities throughout the US, and we are been ranked #1 senior living brand continuously. And I think that it really is just a testament to how we treat our members as well as their families. So one thing that you'll know is that we provide exemplary services and exemplary design. And you can see that from the several communities that are pictured here. A bit about what we offer, and we call it Kisco Confidence, is that 5-star lifestyle. So, our staff, they're at the ready for our members, their families, their guests. As soon as you hit our arrival courtyard, you're greeted by our valet, which are there 12 hours a day, and our concierge, who's there 24 hours a day. Trust and transparency. As soon as we know something, our members in the community know. We don't like to hide anything because, once again, we are people taking care of people. It's important that we have that trust from the community. And a big thing I want to highlight here is our recruitment and retention. If my staff were here, they'd tell you it took about 10 interviews later for them to come on board. And we really take that seriously beyond the requirements that the district have around fingerprinting and being sure that we do extensive background checks. Because, once again, we're taking care of people, not projects and assignments. And at Kisco, we take that seriously. Just about our brand, we do have 3 brands, 1 company. We actually brought Kisco's signature to the district, and there's a reason for that. One, it's a dynamic location, a dynamic locale. How more diverse can you be in a melting pot like DC? So we did choose this location for a reason. One of the biggest things I want to highlight here is our Art of Living Well, which really encompasses the 9 dimensions of wellness, which is our programming. And we really want our residents to shape our programs, shape the community. And what we're doing now is allowing our members to craft the community. So some of the things that you'll see in the upcoming slides are some things that we're working on through our premium partnerships. This is a rendering of the community building. For those who are actually local or drive by, you have seen it. We are topped out. We are 7 floors with a lower level. To the left of the screen, you'll see the farmers market, which is there every weekend, and we love that we get to be a part of that. The sidewalk, as you see, is very deep, and that was a part of our covenant with the community. We want to be sure that the farmers market is a staple and it can stay, and we wanted to be sure that we could bring more space so that the vendors could definitely spread out and not have to veer over, of course, to the Black Salt and Black Coffee side, or everyone lining up 48th place. But it's going to be a lot of room for the different vendors to be on the front side of MacArthur facing. On the right side, you'll see that we will have retail space. I get a lot of questions from the community. What is the retailer? What is the grocer? We're very close to making that selection, so please stay tuned. There will be announcements about what is coming into that space to serve the greater community. By the numbers, like I said, we are 7 floors with a lower level filled with amenities. We have 138 apartment homes, and they're full apartment homes. They're not your traditional senior living apartments that are more like suites with little kitchenettes. We do believe that our residents should be as independent as possible for as long as possible. We do not believe in codependence. We believe in interdependence. So our residents and our members, just like me, we are very capable, and we want to continue to allow residents, even into their advanced stages of maybe a type of dementia or Alzheimer's, to still continue to be independent as possible. I'm going to focus on 2 levels, one being our first floor, which has a lot of our various restaurants and lounges. If you can, wrong way, back. If you can see from the 48th place Northwest, it brings you to our entrance, which is the arrival courtyard. You'll see 2 entrances, one to the covered parking garage and then the other to the main entrance. As you come through the main entrance, you will be greeted, like I said, by our concierge 24 hours a day, which leads you into our gallery. That gallery will be curated art gallery, which rotates quarterly. We have partnerships with the Beyond Art Gallery here on MacArthur Boulevard, as well as the Library of Congress, who will actually give us art on loan. So you can anticipate us having some pretty big insurance policies for that. Zelda's, which is to your left, is our full service lounge and bar. That's where we would love to serve our residents and their guests for lunch or dinner meals. As you walk through the gallery, you'll see to the right there is the Streetcar Cafe. We are partnered with Black Coffee Cafe, which my husband and I, he's at the end of the table here, we just left our annual Friendsgiving dinner that we have with our members and their families. They have created a signature coffee for our community that our residents actually chose the name for this evening. So we hope to unveil the name of our regular and decaf brew. The Boulevard and Promenade are our larger restaurants that will be full service from breakfast through dinner. There's a private dining room adjacent to that, which can be utilized for our members for any type of holiday, celebration, religious celebration, you name it. Our lower level is full of amenities, which you can see here. We have a theater, a full service salon, a saltwater pool with an adjacent sauna, a state-of-the-art fitness center. You see yoga studio, but that truly is a multi-purpose space for Tai Chi, as well as other types of stretch and programming. Right above that is our clinic, which MedStar is our partner. So we will actually have PCP and therapy services. Once we actually receive our certificate of need, that clinic will be open to the greater community, especially for the upper Northwest, so that you're not necessarily going into Georgetown unnecessarily if you can be seen here at our community. You'll see a pet spa because we love our furry friends, and our commercial kitchen on the lower level. I'm going to quickly go through some photos, but once again, 5-star hospitality. I'm really proud of our team for being Forbes Travel Guide trained, to be at the ready, like I said, to meet our residents and members' needs and their preferences. One thing that I think was attractive, not just to our members, but their families, is we're going to have a tech concierge dedicated to our members, so that if they have children who are worried about their parents being able to connect their phones, their TVs, their computers, that tech concierge is dedicated to be able to address those IT needs in the community. Of course, we're located in, like I said, a great location. That's why we chose the Palisades. We have the farmers market, all these great accessibility to what the best that DC has to offer. I talked about Art of Living Well a little bit, but this is our holistic approach and our preventative approach to being sure that our residents can live their best life according to what's important to them. So we're actually forming our resident committees and clubs now, and they're being chaired and led by our members, so that they can start to build out what the program looks like, not just for them as members, but we open up our programming to the community. So one of the things that we recently did is called our Red Carpet Speaker Series. Some of you actually attended. We actually had Martha Raddatz out at the Lars Anderson House, who is the chief global correspondent for ABC. It was well attended. We had over 100 guests there. It was a very dynamic time. But you can see here some of our partnerships we have with OSHA Learning. At Johns Hopkins, we're exploring a relationship now with AU, as well as Georgetown University. I just mentioned our Red Carpet Speaker Series. These are some of the speakers that we've had in the past. Martha Raddatz was the latest, and we are looking to secure our next speaker for Q1 of next year. So stay tuned, as you all will be receiving that invitation, and it will be posted on the Palisades listserv.
So, Alfonso, I'm just going to interrupt you really quick.
Sure.
This is like super interesting, but it's super
Okay.
late. So I'm going to have you like go through your slides just a little bit. Thank
The
you.
rest are just renderings, just to give you an idea of the spaces in the actual community building. I'm sitting here in our Discovery Center, where we actually meet with members, prospective members, their families. If anyone's interested at all about learning more about our community, please do reach out. We're easily accessible right down here at 4418 MacArthur Boulevard at our offsite Discovery Center. So I can actually wrap it here, but my last rendering.
These are great. These are great renderings. So getting back to the liquor license.
This is it right here, Zelda's
Yeah.
Lounge. This is where we would be having our beverages served from.
And can members of the public just come in there?
I'm glad you mentioned that. So you can think of us almost like a U Club or a Cosmos Club. You have to know someone, so you have to be a guest. If you don't know anyone in the community, you know me. You can always be my guest, and I welcome you all to our events as well as dining with us. But you definitely have to know someone, whether it's me or a member living in the community.
Okay, so nobody's walking in and saying, let's go to the Fitzgerald to have a drink. Okay.
No, the district, so DC Health will not allow us to have open table, because then our residents, our members will be waiting to dine every meal, right? So
right.
Yeah.
Commissioner Horn? I think you're still
You're
on
on
mute.
mute, sir.
Sorry, where are you serving drinks?
So the Zelda's Lounge is the space that the last rendering.
But what about the restaurants?
So it would come from Zelda's Lounge. That's the only.
Okay, but
place
you're
that it-
serving it. You're serving it in the restaurants.
Yes.
Okay, and is that just wine or is that any drink?
It is wine, beer, and spirits.
Okay, and then you have in your proposal a summer garden.
So yes, the courtyard is MacArthur facing. There's alfresco dining out of all of the restaurants into the courtyard.
Oh,
So
nice.
you'd serve drinks in that outdoor area that faces MacArthur.
Yes.
Okay. Have I got it all? That's where drinks will be served. They're all on one floor.
So correct, but remember, it's a residential home, so residents can actually prepare drinks in their residence, and we really can't stop that. So I really can't say that there wouldn't be drinks throughout the community.
You wouldn't need a license for that though, right?
Yeah.
So,
And can I ask one more thing before it's not about the beverages, but the clinic? You're going to have people coming from other places to the clinic?
So initially, no. That is a long-term plan to be able to offer just another site for the area so that residents in the Northwest don't necessarily have to go into Georgetown University Hospital. But that's a later plan. Day one, the clinic will not be operational. That'll be physicians coming in just for our residents initially.
Okay.
There's a whole process that Mentor has to go through, one being the certificate of need, and that will take some time, but long-term plan will be to open that clinic to the greater community.
Wow.
So all of the restaurants are you have to live there as well, right? You have to know somebody.
Yes.
So none of the facilities are open to the public in the Fitzgeralds.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, just be clear. Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Elkins?
I had a question about the summer garden. Now, are you going to have music there? Well, I guess as an additional question, I guess more to the chair, is are we going to see the terms of this settlement agreement? But anyway, the first question is, what about noise and music that might be out into the community?
Sure. So, I mean, I kind of liken it as when we sponsor a musical group, when we have our block parties here in the Palisades. I mean, we would definitely follow the settlement agreement. We would follow the ordinances in the district, and we would be mindful of our neighbors. But the majority of what will take place will be inside of the actual community building.
So do we have the terms of the agreement, Madam Chair?
Catherine, can you bring up the settlement agreement?
Commissioner Elkins, I think the settlement agreement was generated from the the ANC and sent to the Fitzgerald. So
Correct.
this is language that we've seen previously with other properties.
And can you hit the plus sign at the top to make it just a little bit bigger?
And what does it say about noise?
I'm not sure I remember if we said anything about noise because I wasn't concerned about it, so I wasn't thinking about it.
There is a noise provision.
Do you see at the top,
In the
Catherine,
magnifying
plus sign to
glass.
make it a little bit bigger?
There you go.
There you go. Okay. Okay, we're gonna scroll down. This is just what it is, the terms.
Noise and privacy.
Privacy. Appellant shall strictly, number 5 on page 2, applicant shall strictly comply with DC code 25725.
Well, of course, I don't remember what 25725 is. Does anybody?
Is Mr.
If I may.
Mixon- Yes, please.
The licensee under an on-premises retailer's license shall not produce any sound, noise, or music of such intensity that may be heard in any premises other than licensed establishment by the use of any mechanical device, machine, apparatus, or instrument for amplification of the human voice or any sound or noise. bell, horn, gong, whistle, drum, or other noise-making article, instrument, or device, or musical instrument. And the section shall not apply to areas in the building which are not part of the licensed establishment or a building which butts to the licensed establishment. The rest is relevant, but essentially, there will not be audible noise coming out from machines and musical instruments.
Okay, good, thank you.
This is our standard trash and vermin and deliveries, although all of that is going to be on the back side of the building. This is
Correct.
the largest building in the Palisades. So it's big. And is there anything on license ownership compliance? Notice of opportunity to cure. Can we go back up to the first page?
Madam Chairman, does the, I don't think our typical settlement agreement would reference anything about the operations not being open to the public or being only a guest of a resident of the Fitzgerald. Is that something we might consider adding to the document?
Perhaps we could. I think that though that's required under the designation of the facility. The one thing that is different on this one is that the hours are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every single day. Is that just what time your that
The licensed parts of the facility would be operating for sales.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it aligns with our service times for our restaurants.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
And if I may, technically, we're not taking reservations, but if you were to come and take a tour, you would be in the community and you could definitely dine. We typically would have anyone who's coming in the tour would be asked if they want to experience our dining. So, I mean, not that you could just come in and make a reservation, but you could definitely come in.
I think that's fine. What I'm looking to avoid is the possibility that the community may want to change the nature of the restaurants in the future or offer Zeldas to the public. And which is not to say that we would necessarily decline that application, but I'd like the ANC to be able to weigh in on it as we would any restaurant and liquor store or liquor serving institution.
If I may, Madam Chairman, Commissioner, I think DC Health would probably be opposed to that based on the fact that we have to meet the needs of the members, especially
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Our objective here is to talk about the liquor license specifically.
Sure.
So while that may be the case, I think that there should not be any objection to it being added to the settlement agreement if that's the normal, if that's what's planned anyway, then we're just codifying what's already in the plan. I'm sorry, Mr. Horn, I'm talking while you have your hand raised.
No problem.
Go ahead, Commissioner Horn.
It's a different question, really. Do the residents and guests pay extra for drinks, or is it all part of the meal plan?
No, alcohol is not included in the meal plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think, what kind of phrase would you like to see added in here or propose, Commissioner Nowak, something along the lines of,
I think we could put it right into section 2, the nature of the business, in that the general public will only have access to the establishment as a guest of a resident or staff of the Fitzgerald, the institution. So I think it's a couple of words in that paragraph there. Or we could put it somewhere else.
to-
I'd have to pull up the full letter to look to see where else it might go.
to suggest alternative wording, something like admission to the licensed premises will be predominantly open to members of the living community, subject to the approval to the terms set by the applicant.
I
account
think you're
for
on the right
the
track.
guest
I
situation.
want to be a little tighter than predominantly and say limited to the residents and their guests. I just want to make it clear that, again, I can't come in, and I am to the earlier point that a person who takes a tour can enjoy the dining. That's great. So then they would be a guest of the staff.
To those
opposed to just the
designated as a guest by the establishment.
Yeah, that would be fine. That would be fine. Well, you know, I'm a guest of every restaurant and bar at which I dine. So
I mean,
I think we just put in language that says you're not open to the general public. That gets to the point. Because if I come in as your guest or as the guest of one of your residents, I'm no longer a member of the general public. I'm there as an invited guest. But if I walk in off the street myself and I, you know, belly up to the bar and order a drink, then I'm a member of the general public.
Yes, I think that's inclusive of their plans. Of course, subject to, I've messaged Mr. Wesley to solicit his feedback, but I think that's consistent with their vision as I understand it. Alfonso,
I'm sorry, you asked me a question?
I sent you a private message if you wanted to just weigh in. Let me know what you think.
Where did you send it? I'm sorry.
The through the Zoom direct messaging.
I don't see a question. I'm sorry, Cameron. But we can definitely circle back on this language if we need to.
If you wanted to discuss this separately, if you wanted to text about it real quick, we could discuss. I just don't want to commit to anything, and also want to preserve your ability to discuss with confidentiality. Of course, I understand that per the ANC's procedure, it's a discussion of whether we are approving this agreement tonight versus in December. And
I'm okay with moving forward with approving the agreement with the language we just discussed. I mean, it's true. We're not open to the public to make a reservation or just belly up to the bar. DC Health wouldn't allow us to do that.
Okay,
It's just a reality.
So it sounds like we're in an agreement, and this could be a friendly amendment. Is there did we actually decide on specific language?
The establishment will not be held open to the general public.
And we would put that in item number 2?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's where it makes the most sense.
Okay. I consider that a friendly amendment. Are we ready to call the question? All right, motion on the floor is to approve this settlement agreement as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry that I put you at the end of our official actions. I didn't realize we were going to get the great presentation. Love the pictures. Great to see you all. We have an administrator. She and I will get together tomorrow afternoon, and we will make sure you get a copy of, we'll send you a executed settlement agreement, and then you all can send it back to us fully executed, and we'll transmit it to ABCA.
That works. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mixon.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
New business. I wanted to mention to the commissioners that DC is putting together their regulations for streeteries. Right now, we have one streetery in Palisades. It's Claudio's Table, and they're trying to make a uniform thing. I went and read it. I think there might be a Zoom that you can, or like a webinar that you can go look at. Do we want, as an ANC, to submit comments? This would require us to look at the streetery thing, and the comments are due in December. So we would have to do a quick meeting in December to vote on it. Commissioner Nowak.
Just a quick question. Can you tell us what the criteria are that makes this streetery? And I'm thinking specifically about Evoila and their tables.
So depending on where you are and what type of street you're on, it has to be less than 25 miles per hour. You can take up parking. And then in some places you can take up parking and one travel lane, but that's very rare. But you basically take up parking spaces. You can also take up some portions of alleys. And then there's this whole thing on what they look like, the safety in terms of, you know, how Avola has the orange, what do they call it? I think they call them Jersey walls.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the future, they all have to be like gray or white. They're trying to make them very uniform, although you can get permission to get like a art installation or mural on the outside of your things. There's railings. You can do concrete ballards, but they have very specific specifications of, you know, you have to be in front of your storefront. You can't like encroach in front of other people's, except for in some circumstances. I don't know. It's a presentation that's like it's long.
So what is the question before the commission today?
So do we think that we're going to see more of these? Do we want to comment there? It's basically a comment period. I think closes on something like December 15th. Did we want to, maybe I'll send this around, and if we want to comment, maybe then we could do a quick meeting in December with some comments on that. I don't know how many of these we would have in our neighborhood. Yeah,
I like
Commissioner.
that idea of sending it around. I also think we should publicize it on the listserv, because I think we may find that neighbors have some strong opinions about this sort of thing, and they shouldn't be surprised if in fact this is becomes more popular even than it has been in the past, and we end up with more of these. I've read the rules generally. I think they are trying to, as you say, standardize them and make them look good, which would be an improvement. But on the other hand, they do take up parking and whatever. So I'm always in favor, as you know, of trying to give our neighbors a chance to come in and tell us what they think before we take a position.
Okay, because then you can also do them on the sidewalk when your sidewalk is wide enough. You know, you can have tables on that, and we might actually, we actually have more of that. Okay.
Is this something just as an alternative potentially to bringing the neighbors on to a December meeting? Can we use District Engage to solicit feedback?
Yeah.
Certainly.
100% we could. In fact, we could probably put together something in, I don't know, an hour or so. Yeah, I think we could definitely do that. Okay, that was my new business. Does anyone else have any new business? All right, commission business. Motion on the floor is to approve the proposed testimony regarding the vacant properties. Commissioner Elkins.
Well, there's been a work group composed of a few ANC commissioners plus people from a lot of different agencies working over the last year with Blaine Stum, who is staff to Mendelson, Chairman Mendelson, to take a look at how the city, what authorities the city has to deal with vacant and blighted properties. And it's been the opinion of a number of us that the authorities have been inadequate, that we've had basically a program that finds that some building is vacant, charges them a rather large tax fee for remaining vacant, unless they can get an exception, but not really much power to actually tell a landlord down in Florida that their property really is just sitting there and is a nuisance and they need to do something about it. So this new bill, which the chairman has introduced, essentially gives a number of authorities, such as in particular the ability for the mayor to decide to ask the court to put a particular property into receivership, allow the receiver to sell the property, to upgrade the property or sell the property, with of course due process rights for the owner. And I think this gives the if adopted, this gives the city a lot more tools. There are a number of pieces of this that you'll see in my testimony that I felt would probably not receive much attention, but yet were important, that we got inserted into this bill, and I wanted to make sure that they were given an appropriate hearing and didn't get cut out by the commission. And in particular, the new thing is that if you're going to have a vacant property, you need to have a maintenance plan to keep it from becoming a nuisance. I mean, that seems pretty straightforward, but we haven't had it in the past. They are now involving ANCs more in this. This is something that I've argued for, of course, for some time, thinking that that's where the energy is in the community, where people are really upset about a blighted property, and they can be a force for trying to bring about a solution. Making sure that the tax records actually reflect the status of the property. Believe it or not, that's often not the case in the past. They've been working on that. And finally, the one thing that I think we all learned by sitting around the virtual table with all these different agencies working together, trying to solve what the problem, find out what the problems are, is that you really need a multi-agency approach to these properties. But you should not, and I'm arguing, you should not expect that to happen automatically. It just doesn't happen in this DC government, as far as I can tell, in most cases, in many cases, and has not happened in the past with regard to this program. And that it would help to have the mayor produce a strategic plan about how she's going to bring all these agencies together to really make a difference and bring these properties back into productive use. So I'm asking, I plan to give this testimony. I would love to be able to give it on behalf of ANC3D, if in fact my fellow commissioners feel that they can endorse these positions.
Commissioner Nowak?
Mr. Elkins, as always, great, well-written and comprehensive testimony. I just have one question for you, and that is around the reconciliation between the Department of Buildings and OTR. And you call for weekly transmission of data and monthly reconciliation, if I read it correctly. And I am wondering if this becomes an undue burden on those agencies in terms of, will it require the need for extra staff?
In fact, it's the bill itself that calls for the weekly transmission and the monthly reconciliation. This is something that the two departments have worked out, and they find really is that they find works well. The committee didn't come up with that. What I'm recommending, which they resisted at first, is that at least once a year that they do an audit, because the fact that they're exchanging information with each other on a regular basis is, of course, the main thing, but it's possible for things to get out of whack. And And it's been quite embarrassing in hearings where the thing is vacant and blighted, and the tax is simply the regular tax. So I'm suggesting as a checkpoint that they at least once a year essentially audit it and reconcile them. And if they've been doing what they should be doing every month, which they've already decided to do, this should take them an hour. If they haven't been doing it,
Yeah.
take them a month. So that's where I am.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I also commend you on the paragraph about the inclusion of ANCs. I think that your characterization of the diplomatic gesture as opposed to really being an interested party is spot on. That I think we are too frequently a check the box sort of step that people need to do. But that we have a role, and I think we equally have a role in identifying blighted properties. Thankfully, we don't have too many in our corner of the city, but I'm sure that there are lots of ANCs where the commissioners are, boots on the ground and know exactly which properties should be identified as blighted and treated as such.
Yes, we have I'm not sure you know, but we have an ANC Commissioner Caucus that works on vacant and blighted properties. And what we've done recently is go through the properties that are in the areas of those particular commissioners, and we've tried to identify their condition and try and find those that top are priority ones that really need to be fixed because they are really a problem in the neighborhood, and brought those to the attention of DOB. DOB is very cooperative in this regard, and they are getting first top of the line attention. So this is also a case where the ANCs may know, well, the person who owns that property is Mrs. Jones, and she such and such and such and such, or so which of course you wouldn't expect DOB to know about. So
right,
I think it's a very good opportunity for ANCs to be a really positive have positive interaction with the department. And the department, here's the important part, the department absolutely agrees about that and is very supportive, and that is, shall we say, unusual.
I think it's a really important proactive tool. In my mind, the tax penalty, the biggest value is that it has owners taking care of their property, and if owners know that they're not just at the mercy of DOB, who does not have enough staff, where they might say, I'll take my chances. There are so few inspectors to cover the city. But in fact, that their ANC commissioner is going to be watching out as well, then hopefully that will be the incentive they need to upkeep the property.
Absolutely. I'm a big advocate for ANCs being the eyes and ears of these departments. And
I didn't allow anyone to second my motion, so we actually don't have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Commissioner Nowak seconds the motion. I'm going to call the question because I've got 2.5 minutes before 10 o'clock. And I can't break my record. All right. All those in favor of approving Commissioner Elkins' testimony? All right. Unanimous. Thank you. We're not doing the Hardy PTO grant. We need to approve the fourth quarter QFR. Motion on the floor is to approve the fourth quarter QFR report. Do I have a second? Commissioner Nowak seconds the motion. Do we have any questions?
No, Catherine, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the QFR on the screen, I will give a 32-second explanation. Our ANC issues very few checks, and our only income is the district allotment. You'll see in this report that we have our personnel, which is our beloved administrator, and we did have one bank fee, which actually is a legacy charge from earlier in the year. Bank fees have ceased. We are in a healthy situation financially, and there is page 2 at the check level detail is available on the website if you we're interested in the checks that go into this dollar. Oh, and in addition to the administrator, the transcriptionist is in that charge as well.
Any questions? Motion on the floor is to approve this QFR. All those in favor? I see 5. Commissioner Simkowitz, do you have your hand raised?
Are you a yes?
Yes.
Yes. All
Yeah,
right.
I always have my hand raised. Yes.
Okay, great. You were off my screen. So let the record show it was unanimous. Motion on the floor is to approve the minutes from October. Do I have a second?
No.
Commissioner Davis seconds the motion.
Can I just mention that Chuck, I got your changes and they will be implemented. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
All right, motion on the floor is to approve the minutes as amended. All those in favor? Unanimous. The next meeting is Wednesday, January 8th, unless Sibley Hospital needs our PON approval before January. Then we're going to have a very short meeting in December, but we won't, if we only have one agenda item, we won't have all the, pre-meeting fanfare. Sound
Madam
good?
Chairman, could we try to get Sibley to reach out to the community and make sure that we have some input from the community before we take that vote?
Yes.
We agreed to at the last meeting, and as far as I can tell, they have not taken, I don't know, but it doesn't appear that they've taken any action in that regard, and I think they should not ignore us.
I will pass that on to Commissioner Roosevelt, and I will work with him to see that we communicate that to Wesley. All right, without objection, the meeting is adjourned.